Welcome back to Fairly Legal. We have had a bit of a hiatus. I think our last show was like in November,
Maybe.
November, December. So what's been going on? I'm not sure what you guys have experienced out there, but I mean, has anything been going on in the world? I don't know. It's
I hear there's some kind of pandemic or something. Yeah. Well, one of the reasons we took a little break is because we both got COVID. Yay.
yeah, it's kind of shocking that
Yeah.
we would both get COVID. I mean, we spent a lot of time in the same building together. Yeah, we got COVID
We got
like
COVID.
right after Christmas.
Yeah. And we held ourselves out like, oh, we're going to be one of those people who are asymptomatic and we'll just get it, but we won't even know we had it. Yeah, that didn't happen.
No, COVID knocked me down. It knocked me down pretty good.
Yeah, me too.
So we figured to this show we were going to talk a little bit about kind of what's been going on, particularly in the Las Vegas area for our market and what happened to us. The reality is COVID did knock us down. I feel like I'm in pretty good shape. I'm a pretty healthy person, and I was really surprised at how badly COVID knocked me down.
Yeah. Gosh, I got sick just a couple of days before Christmas or started actually feeling it a couple of days before Christmas. And it was well after the new year before I felt even remotely back to normal. And I'm one of those people who I don't have a sense of smell. I can't smell anything.
Still can't.
Still can't smell a thing.
And that's crazy. I got mine. I started showing symptoms in a couple days after Christmas. It was like the 29th of December, something like that. I started showing symptoms, and in the comment section below, you guys can put your own experiences if you had any. I mean, for me in particular, I can say that I've been sicker. Like I've experienced sickness where I was more sick from the flu or something like that, but nothing that lasted this long. I mean, my COVID for me started, I was like Cory, it lasted for a solid 10 days.
Yeah.
I was sick for a solid 10 days. And so I don't know how many of you ever had the flu symptoms where you get really sick and then all of a sudden you have a fever break and it lasts maybe a day or even 2 days or even 3 days. I mean, it lasts for a few days. For me and COVID, I've been sicker before, but every time I thought I was going to get over it, all the symptoms would come right back. Yeah. Another day.
That's what was weird about it is when you get sick, normally like every day it gets progressively a little bit better. It hits your worst and then it starts to get better after that. COVID, I would wake up and I would feel exactly the same every single day. Not terrible, not the worst I've ever felt, but I felt bad. And
to me, that's what made it so exhausting. I mean, I was literally exhausted every day. And I started to get to the point of just being exhausted from being sick, from having COVID. It was just day and day, or like you're thinking to yourself, when is this going to be over? And another day would happen.
Yeah, and I guess technically for me, it's still not over. And we both had, in addition to having COVID, because we're lawyers, we're like not community first responders, but community support
is what they call it.
Yeah, so they want the courts to open back up. They want things to get going again with jury trials and everything. So they wanted attorneys to get vaccinated, so we did. And for most people, if you get the vaccine, the first dose just introduces the antibodies into you, and the second dose is when most people feel sick. But because we already had the antibodies in our system, so we got sick basically both times we got the vaccine. I mean, not horrible, but all the basic symptoms of COVID came back as long as I took like Tylenol or something.
Yeah, for me it was Tylenol. I during that course of having COVID, even after the vaccination, I took ibuprofen. It didn't do anything. I never had any relief from ibuprofen, but from Tylenol, it helped.
I'm the opposite. I took ibuprofen and it worked great. I felt, as long as I was taking it, I felt fine. But as soon as I didn't, I would wait and go past whatever the time period to take another dose, and I would start to feel it, and I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot to take that again.
See, that's what we think is so weird about COVID. I mean, forgetting about all of the political back and forth that everyone wants to turn COVID into a political football. The reality is it was just really unique to me. I mean, it was because like how it impacted one person and how it impacted somebody else was different. How it impacted me versus somebody else, is different. Everybody in my house, we tried to do the quarantine thing, but the reality is nobody in the house was unaffected. Everybody in my house got COVID. It hit me the hardest. And I always feel like I'm in the best shape of
I know.
anybody in my
Same with
home.
me.
I'm in the best shape.
We work out. I keep my weight down. Everything. I feel like I'm in good shape. I don't have any underlying health conditions. I take zero medications, and I got it way worse than my family.
Yeah. My kids, it's my children, every one of them got it. And the worst case situation for my kids had it for like 2 days. All the other ones had some symptoms for a day, and then they were totally fine. My wife got it for a couple days, and then she was back to normal. She lost her taste and smell, but that all came back, and it was within a couple days. It hit me harder than anybody. I was really shocked, and I remember thinking to myself, I should get past this before everybody else. I'm in better shape than all of them. Apparently not. Apparently I'm doomed as I get older. But no, it was really wild. It was just wild how it impacted us.
Yeah, I really thought I would be the one in my family who felt it a little bit, and it went away quick, and my wife would get knocked down. Nothing. So who can say? But it's a thing. COVID was real.
Yeah, anyone who tells you it's a hoax, just so we're clear, it's not. I mean, it was. Yeah. I mean, I mean, you get sick. Like I said, we can both honestly say that we've been sicker. I mean, I've had the flu before where I felt way worse. I never got nauseous where I was throwing up, anything like that. It was just body ache, chills. I did have kind of some issues like breathing. When you breathe in heavy, like it would sting, like my chest would sting if I breathed in really deep. So it would cause me to breathe a little more shallow. But outside of that, I've been way sicker, but just lingered. I've just never seen anything that just lingers as long as it lingered.
I had a lingering, like annoying cough forever. It was just, anyway. We're starting to sound like old people. One of the things that I'm going to do when I get old, I'm going to make a little list. One of the things I'm going to do is I'm not going to talk about all my health issues.
No, but it's interesting.
It's kind of relevant.
It is. Well, and it's interesting of just how it impacts you. Because I've had people say different things about it, like, oh, it can cause this, can cause this. And some of the things I totally experienced, other things I didn't. But like the brain fog, they talk about like there's this brain fog. And that sounded so weird to me. And I'm like, okay, brain fog, okay. It really was. I mean, it really kind of causes you to get, at least it did for me. I mean, it caused me to get a little foggy in just how I was seeing things. It was not like hallucinating or anything like that, but it was just hard to concentrate, it was really wild how that impacted. I honestly, my big takeaway is that like 10 years from now, when they actually really sit down and study this, I'm curious as to what the findings are really going to be. Like, what does this stuff do?
Yeah, there's like the list of symptoms was like 10 miles long.
Right.
It's like, oh, I've had that. But there were a lot of things that I didn't get. I didn't have any of the nausea. I didn't have, I never really had a fever that I could tell.
I never did.
I checked my fever. You go into a business and they, check you, see if you have a fever. I never had a fever. Even at my worst, I never had a fever. So
I would have these chills, and then I would have sweats. Like almost like you get a fever and then you sweat out the fever, like your fever breaks. I would check my temperature all the time. I never had a fever. I would get these crazy chills and bad sweats, like my clothes would stick to me. I was sweating so hard. And yet I was checking my temp and 98. I mean, I never had a fever. I'm like, what is happening?
I did get one of those. You did too. Got one of those little things you put on your finger, the oximeter.
Yeah.
Check my heart. The pulse oximeter. Yeah. I was a little low sometimes, but I really didn't have that many respiratory issues either. I had a cough, but it was just weird, and it would last in the morning, then it would go away.
The funny thing is that's it always seems to be the big takeaway from anything with COVID is the best word I got is weird. Yeah. It was just weird. It was like you felt weird, even when I got past COVID. When I got over COVID, and I didn't have any more symptoms, it had to have been at least another week where I just felt weird. I just felt off. Like everything didn't feel normal. As far as just my family would ask me like, "What do you mean?" And I'm thinking, I really can't explain it. I can't describe it. It was just weird. And then all of a sudden it went away, and I felt fine. And I totally felt fine after that. And but yeah, it was definitely a weird experience, and not a hoax, but. At the same time, I mean, it wasn't like I said. I've been sicker. I mean, I get it. So I appeal. I mean, I appreciate all the people that have had COVID, particularly people who've lost loved ones. I mean, yeah, I get it. I mean, I could see where it could go south for somebody real fast, especially if you have some particular underlying health condition.
Right. And it's random too. My sister-in-law has really bad asthma, and they were scared to death. And my brother got it too around the same time I got COVID. And my sister-in-law got a fever for about 15 seconds, and she was done.
It's weird.
And she was the one that they're all freaking out. Oh, if she gets it, what'll happen? And nothing happened apparently to her. My brother, who has no issues, just like me, nothing. I mean, he was down for 4 or 5 days and felt terrible.
So I'm still dying. I'm dying to know where all the research will eventually wind up as to what COVID really does to us and what it really caused. But needless to say, Cory and I both, we did get the vaccinations in part because we were told and asked to make sure that we go get it because the court system's trying to reopen. There haven't been any trials since March of last year. So it's thousands of cases have backed up, thousands. And so now we got to get the courts back open.
I think there have been
a
couple.
Well, they started so the first round of trials, they were doing some bench trials for criminal stuff. They were doing bench trials where there weren't juries. So I should caveat it. They haven't had a jury trial, and they're now starting to try to do that at the Las Vegas Convention Center. So what happened is the court kind of renovated 3 courtrooms at the courthouse to what they call COVID courtrooms, where they can do a jury trial safely, but only 3 for a district, for a county that is 2 million people. 3 courtrooms isn't going to get it done. So what they did is they went out and got space at the Las Vegas Convention Center, and they renovated a couple of those. And so they're trying to kind of get to it again.
So Nevada has a program that if you have a case that's worth less than $50,000, they put you in something called the short trial program, and it's a 4-panel jury. And the trial can only last 1 day. Each side gets 3 hours to put on their evidence. I'm a judge in that, and so I had a trial scheduled for Friday, and it was going. We were going to go through jury selection and everything, but one of the attorneys, their kid got COVID, and so they had to quarantine, so we had to call it off. We're doing it in April, but they're happening. I know they're happening. I just don't know how frequently, but I know there have been a couple that have occurred because I saw somebody posted a picture on Facebook of that convention center courtroom, and they made it sound like they had tried a case there, but I don't know.
Yeah,
I
would like to highlight
like
to highlight real quick that Cory has the lamest judge's robe of any judge in history of judging. Just not true.
They normally give you a robe, and it's they have this closet full of robes, but because of COVID, they want to be really careful. So they don't want us wearing robes, and they don't want people going in there and getting them. So they said, get your own robe.
So he went and got his kid's graduation robe from high school graduation. No, I'm joking.
So
he didn't do that.
Like we're ordering it online, and it's not good. It's not.
I was going to give him a cap and gown because it looks like one of those graduation robes.
It looks like if you went to the Halloween store and you wanted to buy a judge's costume, it's what you would get.
What he should do, and what he really should do, is do like old English barristers where he's got the wig on his head.
Yeah.
And
I would look good.
He'd roll in with one of those.
I can pull it off. I got the bone structure, but
yeah. So what we wanted to highlight is that so now we are starting to get back to it. There was a time where, and it still is, there's still a lot that's being done video conferencing. I'm curious as to see when the court ever truly reopens to that. We got an administrative order that came out on Friday from the Nevada Supreme Court. And so it came out on March 12th, just this last Friday. And it's basically states that all hearings in the courthouse are still going to be video conference. And it used to be where if you wanted to do something video conference and didn't want to show up in person, you had to specifically request permission to do that. Now that's the rule. That's how we're going to be appearing is through video conference or phone calls, no in-person anything. But the change that they did make is that before you couldn't do a deposition live. You had to be through a video conference. They have changed that, and they said now you can start doing them in person, but you still have to adhere to distancing protocols and masks and things like that. So we're seeing some changes, things starting to move again to some sense of normalcy. But I mean,
I did my
it
first
didn't seem like it's that
in-person,
close.
my first in-person deposition in over a year. I did last week. And honestly, it's horrible because I have to wear a
Yeah.
mask. The deponent has to wear a mask. And it's funny because, it's not, I've been practicing long enough that I'm not a slave to like an outline where I'm like looking at the question. What was the date of the accident? I'm not doing that. I'm trying to get it into a conversation because I want the person talking. I want them volunteering information. So I want to be all chatty and nice. And you can if you can't see someone's face, it's amazing how much information is lost in a conversation. The deposition went way shorter than it should have gone. I would have done it over Zoom. It would have been easier, but for technology, I needed to show them video, and I couldn't get enough bandwidth to have them see the video in my Dropbox so that they could.
Yeah, we were trying to see if we could do it by way of a video, and so we were doing test runs, and so we were trying to do this test run of showing the video across the Zoom meeting. It just wasn't working.
Yeah, couldn't see it.
So he had to do an in person because just to show the video. But outside of that, I mean, so it's still predominantly video conferencing. I know that when we're seeing different kind of things coming out from either the governor's office or anybody else that says, hey, we're trying to get things back to normal, restaurants, things like that. For us, it's slow going. And I don't envision that changing during 2021. We talked about this a little bit in our last video where we talked about kind of where things were headed and where we saw things headed. It's kind of playing out like what we talked about is, money's been spent to kind of retrofit these courthouses at the convention center. They're not letting that go to waste. I mean, we're going to be there for a little. I mean, we're going to be doing all these alternative things well into 2022. I mean, I don't envision anything changing in 2021 for us that much, and we'll see about 2022.
I'll be honest, I have COVID fatigue,
I could get it. I understand that.
I haven't really experienced the mask in the going out as much because in the summertime everybody was still kind of in. We weren't going out a lot. Everything was shut down, and so things are more open. So we're going to be wearing masks in the middle of summer, going places and doing things. And I don't know. I'm not looking forward to it, but it is what it is.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how any of the rest of you who ever watched this video have gotten either tired of wearing masks or you've gotten really used to it. I mean, for me, I've kind of gotten used to it, but I don't like it. But it's one of those things where you all of a sudden before normal was getting out of a car and going to whatever store you're going. Now you get out of a car and the first thing you do is like, do I have my mask? Do I get the? It's a weird experience. It is kind of just a complete change in the way we do things, and so that's been pretty wild for me. And we'll see how long that lasts. We're not here to debate whether or not it's a good policy or a bad policy. To us, it is what it is, and so we do it.
That's how it is. I mean, just deal with what it is. It's masks have become like reading glasses. I'm not good at carrying one set of reading glasses around, so I just have them strewn everywhere. My house, my bedroom, my office, my car. I just keep them everywhere I'm going to need them. And masks are the same way because my worst nightmare is I'm going to end up somewhere and realize I don't have a mask because I took it out, I left it in my pocket or whatever.
Well, we want to go out and eat. I take my kids and we're going to go out and eat. And my wife and I mean, it's funny because now the first thing you yell at everybody is when they're getting in the car. Has everybody got their masks? Has everybody got their masks? Because it's like, I don't want to get there and we can't go in because one of my kids forgot their mask. But it's interesting. Schools, I mean, they're starting to, reopen. I got an elementary school daughter, so she's going back to school. My two older kids, I think they're staying home. They're looking at it like 2 months left. I don't want to go do the cohorts like 2 times a week or something like that. So
it's more confusing than yeah. It's not my kids are chomping at the bit to go back to school. So, and my older son's in college, and Online works great for him.
Yeah.
It works great. I mean, why he doesn't have to drive to UNLV every day. And
I got an oldest. My son, my oldest is in, well, not my oldest, but my second oldest is a senior in high school this year. And I feel bad for all the seniors of what they're going
yeah, I
through.
do too.
But I think that there's a part of him is like, hey, the online's really good.
Yeah.
He doesn't have that many classes to begin with as a senior. But it is interesting to watch the debate that goes on about what we're doing. I mean, like how to get back to normal, as opposed to, you got the people that's like, it's just time to reopen. And you see what's going on with the school system on just the cohorts thing. I mean, I'm not here to tell you it's, this is the best thing or the bad thing, but going to school like 2 days a week, I don't know. I'm not sure who came up with that
I know.
idea.
As a lawyer, it's clear to me that this was a negotiated solution to this. It's not like science-based or anything. It's like they negotiated. Well, okay, here's what we're willing to do. We'll go 2 days a week for each kid, and then we do
Yeah.
that. It's like, you know what? Either get all the way back, or let's just stay.
It was just an
online.
odd,
It's
because you read it and you're like, this just seems odd. Like,
Yeah.
how did this come about? Like,
yeah.
I'm curious as to know what was going on in the room when they made the decision to, like, we're going to go 2 days a week, and then we're going to have a break on Wednesday, and then there's going to be 2 more days, but it's a different group of kids. And
then we have a third
just
group
think of
who's
that.
straight online and they don't go at all. I know some of the rules that we've created. Just I mean, people are well-meaning and well-intentioned, but like my friend has a son who wrestles, so they're allowed to wrestle each other, grab each other. They're sweating, getting all over each other. But at the end of the match, they cannot shake hands. Nope, I'm sorry. We're in the middle of COVID. I'm
Put their mask back on.
Okay. I can see the science behind that policy. People just are, and everyone's heart's in the right place. We're trying to get everyone back to have as good of an experience as they can under the given conditions, but then
it is tough. Because you see society. I mean, so many people in society, they just, we as a people have a tendency to go after each other for all kinds of things. And, I noticed that most of the policies that I see, whether I disagree with them or agree with them, most of the people that are coming up with them, I agree. I mean, their heart's in the right place. They're trying to get something they think works. You can sit back and go, I'm not sure how you're connecting those dots, but I get that their heart's in the right place.
Yeah.
So that, I mean, I can't fault for that, but yeah, some of the things that have come out, you just sit back and go, I'm not sure how you guys are connecting those dots and making that work, but it's above my pay grade. Apparently. I don't get that. I don't get to make those choices. I guess if you really want to make those choices, I mean, is a statement as to why you should run for public office. If you don't run for public office or you don't vote, you don't get to gripe. You only get to gripe so much.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, we're back to work. If you know someone who's in a situation where they've been injured, just understand attorneys are available. I mean, claims can still go forward. Claims are still moving just like they were before COVID. Things are moving ahead. We are getting back to normal. We're going to start being a lot more regular with our show. And we're going to come back with a lot more information. I mean, the big focus on our show has always been to provide information about how things work and how the legal system can, how things can operate to a great degree for your benefit. And so we're going to be bringing more of that information in 2021. So we're back at it.
We are. And happy to be there.
Yeah.
Happy to be alive and happy to be COVID-free and completely vaccinated. And
I'm still angry at Cory for giving me COVID. I'm almost positive he's the one who gave it to me. I'm pretty confident about that. But that's our show. Thanks for being with us, guys.
Thanks, everybody.